The Brave Tin Soldier. In a little boy's bedroom there once stood 25 tin soldiers. In their bright red and blue uniforms they all looked exactly alike, except for the last. Alas, there hadn't been enough tin to finish him, so he had only one leg. But as you know, a soldier who can stand straight on one leg alone is a very special soldier indeed. There were other toys on the table where the tin soldiers stood. Among them stood the prettiest paper girl you've ever seen. She was a dancer who stretched her arms out wide and stood on one leg. Yes, just like the tin soldier. One night, as the other toys played under the moonlight, the tin soldier waited for the pretty dancer to start her show. Then, as the clock struck 12, she spun around gracefully on her tiny stage. The tin soldier was entranced.
How I wish that one day I might marry her.
But the pretty dancer had another admirer, an evil goblin who lived inside the jack-in-the-box. He wanted her for his bride too.
Some wishes aren't meant for scruffy tin soldiers.
The tin soldier pretended not to hear the goblin.
Just you wait, boy. You'll see.
The next morning, as the light crept over the rooftops, the goblin conjured up a gust of wind. The pretty dancer gasped in horror as she saw the tin soldier struggle to keep his balance. Then he lurched and tumbled straight out of the window and into the street below. The poor soldier found himself face down in the gutter as it started to rain. Two boys saw him. They made the soldier a boat out of newspaper. They sailed him down the gutter. The wind and rain made enormous waves. The brave soldier clung desperately to the sides. But worse was still to come. Up ahead lay a dark and filthy drain, guarded by a foul and ugly water rat.
No money, no entry.
Of course the soldier had no money. He quickly steered around the rat, who growled angrily and lunged at the boat.
You won't get away with this.
The soldier closed his ears and kept his gaze straight ahead as the boat rushed headlong through the murky torrents. Soon he came to the end of the tunnel, and the soldier smiled as the sun's rays cut through the clouds. Then, suddenly, he found himself hurtling over the edge of the biggest waterfall he could ever imagine. The drain emptied straight into a deep canal. The boat twirled round and round, and the brave soldier held on with all his might. Then a huge wave smashed into the boat and cut it clean in half. With nothing left to cling to, the soldier began to sink. He closed his eyes, and a tear came to them as he thought of the pretty dancer, and knew he'd never see her again. Then an extraordinary thing happened. A big old fish appeared and in one gulp swallowed the soldier whole. But even more extraordinary, the fish was then netted by a fisherman who put him up for sale at the local market. And most extraordinary of all, the fish was bought by the mother of the little boy who owned the tin soldiers. When the woman cut the fish open, she peered into its belly and stared in amazement, for there was the tin soldier, and he was standing as steady as ever. You can imagine how amazed the other toys were when the tin soldier was placed back in their company. They were full of admiration for his wonderful bravery. But no one was more in admiration or more delighted than the pretty dancer. She looked at him and smiled the most beautiful smile he had ever seen. Unfortunately, the terrible goblin also saw her smile. He flew into a rage and conjured up an even bigger gust of wind. In an instant, the tin soldier was sent tumbling over and down and into the stove. The heat was intense, and soon the colours in the soldier's uniform began to fade, and his poor body started to melt.
Taught you a lesson. You won't get away this time.
But the goblin's laugh didn't last long, because that very same wind lifted up the pretty dancer and swept her into the stove too. The soldier gasped as he saw her catch alight, and before he could move to help, she was gone. The next day, when the maid cleaned out the ashes, all that was left of the pretty little dancer was a tinsel rose burnt black as a cinder. And of the brave tin soldier, only a melted lump remained, shaped like a tiny heart.